Have you ever wondered about the true price of immortality? Deep within a remote Swiss village, a legend was born in the rhythmic tick of a clock. In the 1700s, an artisan named Elias lived here. He did not build clocks to tell time. He built them to capture the essence of eternity itself. He was crafting his eternal masterpiece, a machine designed to grant human life endless duration. A pursuit that consumed every waking hour of his long existence. But why, after an entire lifetime of labor, did this ultimate creation remain a pile of scattered components, never reaching its final, promised form of completion? The blueprints spoke of a mechanism so divine it could pause the aging of cells, yet the workshop was filled with unfinished dreams and dusty metal. This story is not about a failure of engineering, but a series of choices that redefined what it means to live forever in a dying world.
For Elias, the ticking of the clock was the heartbeat of destiny, a constant reminder that every second spent was a second lost to the void. Then came the first turning point, a moment when the mechanical met the mortal in a clash of cold steel and rushing, freezing mountain water. When Elias was 40, a catastrophic flood threatened to erase the village. The ancient dam was failing, its rusted iron chains snapping under the pressure. Panic swept through the streets as the wooden barriers groaned. The only way to stop the collapse was a precision-engineered axle that didn't exist. He looked at his machine, 50% complete. In its core lay a central axle made of a rare, indestructible alloy he had forged himself. To save the village, he would have to dismantle the very part that controlled the flow of time within his grand and holy mechanical vision. Without hesitation, he began to tear it apart. The dream of immortality was sacrificed in an instant for the immediate survival of his frightened neighbors. He fought the wind and the rising tide, carrying the weight of his life's work into the eye of the storm to face the crashing water. With a final desperate shove, he secured the dam. The mechanism held. The village was saved, but the eternal masterpiece was now broken and hollow. The cold blue tones of disaster faded into the warm gold of gratitude. Elias had traded a part of his legacy for the lives of many. This was the first time the masterpiece was delayed, a sacrifice of gears for the breath of children and the safety of the humble homes below. He began to rebuild, his passion undimmed, yet he knew that the path to eternity was now longer and much more difficult than before. Years turned into a decade. The machine grew once more, becoming even more complex and beautiful, reflecting the wisdom he had gained from his sacrifice. The second iteration was nearing completion, its promise of immortality whispering to him in every click and every turn of the tiny golden wheels. But fate is a cruel clockmaker. 10 years later, a record-breaking drought struck the land, turning the alpine paradise into a barren, thirsty wasteland. The crops withered, and the wells ran dry. The village was dying again, not by water this time, but by the complete and total absence of it. He looked at the energy pump of his machine, a complex system designed to circulate the fluids of life forever within the human body's veins. What is the use of living forever if the world around you is nothing but a graveyard of dust? The question haunted his aging, weary mind. For the second time, he chose the living over the mechanical. He dismantled the core of his immortality to create a miracle for the dying fields.
Using the high-precision valves, he engineered a pump that could draw water from the deepest hidden aquifers far beneath the parched, cracked surface of the earth. When the first stream of water broke the surface, the village erupted in cheers. Life was returning, flowing through the metal veins Elias had provided. Elias stood in the background, a silent savior. He realized that time was not just numbers, but the very pulse of the life he protected. The masterpiece was in ruins once more.
He had to start from the beginning. But his hands moved with a new kind of holy purpose. He understood now that every time he tore down his dream, he was actually building something much greater, a legacy written in the lives of others. The second sacrifice was harder, but it confirmed his path. He was no longer just a watchmaker. He was the guardian of the village's heartbeat. More years bled into history. Elias was now an old man, his body failing him as he raced against his own ticking clock to finish. The third and final version of the eternal masterpiece was a marvel. It was missing only one final ball bearing to begin its eternal rotation. He could feel his own end approaching. The gate to immortality was right there, just one small piece away from swinging wide open for him. A mining accident. A deep shaft had collapsed, trapping dozens of men under tons of mountain rock. The village was paralyzed by the sudden tragedy. The rescuers needed a support structure of immense strength to prevent a secondary collapse and reach the men trapped in the suffocating darkness below. He knew what was required. The main frame of his machine was the only thing strong enough to hold back the weight of the entire mountain. This was his final choice. The door to his own eternity, or the lives of the fathers and husbands waiting in the dark for a miracle. He embraced the concept of impermanence. Like the sand in an hourglass, he understood that to hold on is to lose, and to give is to live. With his remaining strength, he pushed the masterpiece out of his workshop. It shattered into pieces, its individual components used to brace the crumbling tunnel. The steel groaned under the mountain's weight, but it held. One by one, the miners emerged from the shadows into the light of the torches. He watched as families were reunited. He was exhausted, his work finally done, though not in the way he had once dreamed as a young man. Beside his glorious scrap heap, Elias took his last breath. The machine was never finished physically, but it had achieved perfection in its very soul. The story of the watchmaker who refused immortality became a whisper in the wind, a legend told to every child in the valley for centuries. Centuries have passed and the world has changed. Yet if you look closely at this modern village, the spirit of Elias is still very much alive. The machines he built to save his people still function, their gears turning with a precision that modern technology struggles to match even today. We live in a world obsessed with completion and success, but Elias teaches us that the most important work often remains unfinished on paper. This is the concept of the invisible manuscript, the deeds and kindnesses that aren't recorded in history books, but are felt in the survival of a lineage. Sometimes our greatest failures are actually our most profound achievements. When we set aside our ego, we create room for something truly eternal. Immortality isn't about living forever in a physical body. It's about the echo of our choices in the lives of those we have touched. Elias gave up his personal eternity to ensure the eternity of his community. He disassembled his masterpiece to build a future for everyone else. Do not be discouraged if your grand plans seem to fall apart.
Perhaps you are just repurposing the parts for a more urgent and beautiful need. His masterpiece was the love he left behind. It was the water in the drought, the safety of the dam, and the hope in the mine. Every time you choose kindness over your own ambition, you are building your own version of the eternal masterpiece, invisible but powerful. The mystery of the watchmaker who refused immortality is solved. He didn't refuse it at all. He simply found a better way to achieve it. We are all clockmakers of our own lives. The components we choose to use and those we choose to give away define who we are. His machine was scattered across the valley, hidden in the infrastructure of life,
making the world run better without ever asking for recognition. Stop worrying about being remembered. Focus instead on being the reason why someone else has a chance to be happy tomorrow. Time is the most precious resource we have, and the way we spend it is the only true currency that matters in the end. They see the math, but they also feel the heart. They realize that his errors were actually his greatest moments of profound mechanical clarity. This is the rhythm of life. It's a constant process of building, breaking, and rebuilding for the benefit of the greater whole we belong to. The cycle continues. The immortality Elias sought is found in this very moment of connection, passing the torch of wisdom down the line. Every sunrise is a reminder that we have another chance to build something that lasts, even if it's just a memory in someone's heart. Don't be afraid of the unfinished. Your life is a masterpiece precisely because it is still being written through your daily acts of grace. The watchmaker knew that the only thing that truly lasts is what you give away. The rest is just metal and glass and dust. Nature has reclaimed the space, but the resonance of his sacrifice remains in the soil and the air of the village he loved. Every artisan who works with their hands today carries a piece of Elias's spirit, the dedication to a craft that serves a higher purpose. The branches of the family tree grow strong because the roots were protected by a man who valued life more than his own fame. What will your legacy be? Will it be a cold, perfect statue, or a warm, living impact on the people who need you most? Let Elias be your compass. When faced with the choice between personal gain and collective survival, always choose the path that feeds the soul. Every sacrifice is a seed. It may look like you are losing something, but in the garden of time, you are planting a forest. The bells of history ring for the selfless. They ring for the watchmakers, the builders, and the savers who walked quietly among us in the past. You are part of this grand mechanism. Your time is now. Make every second count by building something that doesn't just measure time, but honors it. Thank you for listening to The Mystery of Elias. May your own masterpiece be as invisible and as powerful as his was to the world. Perhaps you are not standing still. Perhaps you are simply disassembling your own immortality to create something far more beautiful for the world to inherit.